Well, I started studying the law the same way I sold drugs. I basically fell in love with it, and I did it all day, all night. The only time I wasn't doing law is when I was asleep, and then when I was asleep, I probably was dreaming law.
From Anarchapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Anarchast, show for anarchy on the internet. I've got a great guest coming on. It's Freeway Rick Ross. A lot of you probably know about him. Very interesting story. I want to get into his story and that sort of thing. I want to hear about his experiences, particularly so many interesting ones, including, I think, I don't know if I have this wrong, but I think he didn't even know how to read when he ended up in jail after becoming one of the largest cocaine distributors in the world. And he learned to read and then figured out the law process and figured out a way to get out of a life sentence. Very interesting stuff. This could be a very interesting conversation. And glad to see you, Rick Ross, and thanks for coming on. And you're going to be speaking at Anarchapulco 2020. Excited about that. And I just wanted to first ask you about, your thoughts on voluntarism, anarchism, as we were just talking about. You had some great thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, nobody should want anybody else to be a slave. And no slave should submit to another man. I believe that we're all connected in this world. I mean, every single thing on the planet has a reason for being here. Mother Nature has made it so that we all need each other, and everything's supposed to work in harmony. And when you take it out of that harmony, you start a disbalance of I don't know the correct name, but the balance of the way things supposed to go are not in proper balance that it should be.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just so you know, Rick is with his kids at their tennis practice. So he's coming in from his vehicle at the moment. Well,
when you're so busy, like I'm busy all day. I believe that I'm a worker for the people. And I should be doing the people's work all day long as much as I can. And I have to squeeze a little time in for the kids.
Yeah, it's definitely good to squeeze some time in for the kids, and that's great. And so for those of the people out there who don't know your story a little bit, maybe you could just give us a bit of your background and what's gone on in your life to date.
Well, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. Was hoping to be a tennis player myself. Never learned how to read and write. So when I was in high school and I thought I was going to be going to college, it was discovered that I couldn't read or write, and they found out I couldn't, and so they say, "Oh, no way, you're going to college." And I find myself back in my own neighborhood where I grew up, and I started to do the things that everybody in my neighborhood was doing, and what I fell in love with was the art of selling drugs. I thought the drugs was a perfect niche for me. I thought about some of the other things that they were doing, robbing, pimping, stealing cars. And I just thought drugs was a much easier fit for my personality, my tempo. I couldn't see myself putting a gun in nobody's face, telling them to give me all their money. But when it came down to drugs, it seemed that when you sold drugs to people, you made people happy. You made their day. And I felt much better by making people's day than by running their day. So I started selling drugs at 19 years old. I started with $125. My partner had $125. We went from there to where we had days that we made as much as $3 million. Got arrested at 28 years old, went to prison, got a life sentence without the possibility of parole. While I was in prison, I taught myself how to read and write. Eventually found a loophole that got myself out of prison. And here I am today, going around trying to encourage other kids, in the ghetto, that some of the things that we think that we can't do, we can if we give ourselves a chance. And we can't let our environment dictate who we think we are, nor who we are. Because if you think you are, that's who you are. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll start to live out the things that we allow other people to label us as. And, right now, my goal is to teach as many people as I can about life and about the way I figured out that I was a lot different than what I ever thought I was.
That's great. Amazing story. I know there's a lot longer story than that. And if people want to hear the whole story, you've done a autobiography book, came out a while ago. We'll put a link to that down below and people could check out the whole story. And I just want to let you know from our perspective, you might not know these perspectives from anarchy, anarcho-capitalism. We call ourselves voluntarists, that just like you said, when you looked around at some of your options in your environment and you didn't like the ones where you're going to hurt people and you liked the ones where you're helping people out. And from our perspective, the government should not be involved in any way in what people put into their bodies. So we view this whole drug war as being completely a horrible and heinous thing on people. And if all you're doing is providing people with a product that they want, there's really nothing wrong at all with that. So that's our perspective on it.
I agree. I don't think that people should be incarcerated because they're addicted to drugs or if they just want to use drugs, as long as they're not harming anybody else, then they should be totally legal to do anything that they want to do with themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I have a question about when you were involved in the drug trade. I haven't read your book. I apologize. I'm very busy and I have a lot of people to talk to and I can't read everyone's books. But I'm curious about the level of involvement of things like the CIA in the drug war and things like that. I know they're very involved. I wonder what your experience is with that.
Well, what we found out when I was going to court, my old drug supplier also became my informant, and he started working with the government. And during trial, we discovered that he was a CIA operative and that he had been on the CIA payroll for quite a while. And they knew that he was selling drugs, and the government said that they didn't sanction it, but they did go to the Attorney General and ask her if they could not report his involvement in drugs. Well, his organization's involvement in drugs, the whole Contra movement.
Right. And I've heard, I'm no expert on this at all, but I've heard a lot of people saying that the CIA was very involved in getting a lot of cocaine into the U.S. and things like that. So I'm wondering if you saw that yourself personally.
I didn't see that, but from what my understanding is that they used military planes and special enforcement operations to move weapons to Nicaragua and bring drugs back to America.
Yeah. Very involved, of course, in Afghanistan with opium and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of very strange or horrible that the government has this war on drugs, but the CIA is one of the biggest sort of involved in the entire global trade of it. And people like yourselves and so many others are just trying to provide people with products they want and end up in jails. And very happy to hear that you ended up figuring a way out. What was that like for you? I think you were in jail for about 20 years. Is that right? And then
I was. Jail. I mean, jail can be horrible in a lot of ways. It takes you away from your family, strips you away from your loved ones. But it also can be a place where you find yourself. I was able to find myself. I did a lot of time by myself. When I first got arrested, I was a very high-profile inmate, maybe close to like El Chapo is right now. Not quite that big, though, because they probably got him in total isolation, where he won't have any human contact for maybe 5 or 10 years. I wasn't put in that situation, but I was kept in isolation. When I traveled, I had a black box on my hands. It was really painful. Almost torturous. But what I did, like I said, is I was able to find myself. I figured out that I wasn't a dummy. that I wasn't stupid, and I just been misled into believing that those criteria fitted me. So I found out that while I was in prison. Before I left prison, I taught myself how to read and write. I read over 300 books while I was there. So when they wouldn't allow me to go to college, I sent myself to college while I was in prison. So I took that time, and I wanted to make the best of it. I just didn't want to be being warehoused, sitting on a concrete block, waiting for years to pass by.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible story. And so you go into prison and you think you're going to be in there for life, and you didn't even know how to read or write, and you taught yourself how to do that. And then what did you do? You started reading law books or something, and you found out a way to get out?
Yeah. Well, I started studying the law the same way I sold drugs. I basically fell in love with it, and I did it all day, all night. The only time I wasn't doing law is when I was asleep, and then when I was asleep, I probably was dreaming law. So eventually, I found the words that eventually set me free.
That's amazing. And so what was that experience like, that you were in that situation, you eventually kind of almost found a way out, and then you actually got a way out? What was the feeling? Because I'm sure you thought you were probably going to be in there for the rest of your life, and you found a way out. It must be just an incredible feeling.
It was. Matter of fact, people can read a little bit about it. They wrote my obituary in LA Magazine in 2013, so they can read my obituary. And I also got to help with my obituary, so it was kind of a unique situation. But yeah, I definitely had days that I felt that I was never going home. But I would snap out of it and then go back to work, because I understood that I started reading books, about the law of attraction and stuff like that there. And I understood that I attracted prison to myself. Mm-hmm. And I figured that if I could attract it to me, then I could attract my way out of it. And that's what I started to do.
That's great. I think you're really going to enjoy being at Anarchapulco, because so many people are into a lot of these things, including things like law of attraction and also a lot of the things like about how no one should be in jail for these sort of things, but also building yourself as well. And that's been a big part of what we've been talking about in Anarchapulco is, a lot of people like yourself, originally you thought you weren't that smart because you were told that and all that kind of stuff. And so many people have had that happen to them over their lives, and really just working on yourselves. And I think almost everyone could just do almost anything if they put their mind to it. But I think a lot of people just don't even realize that they can.
Well, a lot of times when you have been taught to be afraid of failure, then it's better to be safe than to take a risk and take the chance of looking dumb or stupid. So what we do is we play it safe and we stay right in our little comfort zone. And a lot of times that's exactly what we shouldn't be doing.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And, to some people, they might think, oh, he used to be a drug dealer, he's a bad person and all this sort of stuff. We don't believe that at all. As long as you weren't hurting anyone, you were just selling people products, that's totally fine. And it's really great to hear, too, that, that some people might think you're like this bad person, but now you've really gone on and you're really trying to inspire people, really trying to help your own community and things like that. And what kind of things are you doing, like, to do those things now?
Well, right now, I got involved with the marijuana down here in the U.S. We just passed laws where marijuana is legal here, and I'm fighting to make sure that the poor people have a chance to own a license. It's funny, the same people who used to lock us up for marijuana, and now they're wanting marijuana licenses, and they're trying to hog them all up. So we're right now fighting for that. We're probably going to be getting one of our city council members out of office because he's been taking money up under the table from the rich people, selling the people who put him in the office out. So I'm doing politics. My life has did a 360. I never would have thought from me being an outlaw that now I would be a lawmaker. I know now that I have just as much right to sit at the table when they're making laws as anybody else. And I want to be there so that I can make sure that the laws are created justly and fairly for everybody. Because what winds up happening a lot of times is that the laws are for the poor, and the rich usually get off scot-free.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole system's totally rigged. And if what you're interested in is making it so that they can't continue to do those things, that's awesome. And you're really like Anarchapulco as well. A lot of cannabis people, actually, a lot of the people who started the entire decriminalization and legalization of cannabis or marijuana movement are at Anarchapulco, including Michael Bowman. He was one of the top ones, and Joby Weeks. And so you're definitely going to be amongst an interesting crowd of like-minded people at Anarchapulco, so we're really glad to have you down there. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to mention at all while we have you at your in your car by your kids' tennis practice?
Well, I just want to tell the people that you got to have faith in yourself, and if you don't have faith in yourself, nobody else will. And if you allow other people to dictate how you feel about yourself, you're going to be in trouble, because most people will rather put you down than to big you up. Because if they knock you down, it makes them look big. So it's very important that we have faith in ourselves and confidence that we can do it. It's very important, and I just want to encourage everybody to always tell themselves that they can if they think they can. All you have to do is think that you can, and you can. And that's how I've been able to sustain the success that I've been doing. I have my second book, just got released about 3 months ago. My first book has been doing really well. And you can get my books at my website at freewayrickyross.com. Go there and order. And, I just appreciate you having me on the show, and I can't wait to get to Acapulco. Never been there before, heard a lot about it. And if it's anything like that picture, is that the background behind you? I can't really tell. Looks
that's the background.
Looks like a picture.
No, that's the background.
Wow. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, right there is where the conference is down there. So
I can't wait to get there.
Yeah, we can't wait too. And I think hopefully you can come a little early, like at least a couple of days. I don't know what we've arranged, but we have a whole health and wellness portion of the event where a lot of people talk about this stuff, about how to, build yourself, whether it's, your physical health, your mental health, spiritual. Realize that you are a sovereign human being, that no one should enslave you, and that you are capable of anything. And that's so many people at our conference. So you're definitely going to fit in. We're really excited to have you coming down. And I'll leave it at that. We'll put the book links to the books down below, and Ricky Ross will be speaking at Anarchapulco. It's February 13th to 16th. Check it out at anarchapulco.com, and we'll leave it there. So that's it. Thank you very much for coming in, and that's it for
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. So that's Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
Anarchapulco is so hype, I'm trying to tell ya. This the event of the year and best vacation ever. Ron Potter, Jeffrey Tucker, just to name a few. Get your tickets, you don't want to miss it. You should roll through. Talking politics to health and self-improvement to investing. So many things, not one thing. Learn how to live life unchained, yeah. 4 days vibing on the beach, time to connect. All about growth, way more than a conference. This is Anarchapulco, yeah. Let's go.
You ain't seen nothing yet.